Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cleaning out my closet, it's time to let go. Negative energy, I don't need it.
Welcome back to Unfiltered and Off Script. I'm your host, Jason Vaughan, and today we're asking a question that sounds motivational until it starts exposing your entire lifestyle. Does peace kill greatness, or does obsession destroy peace? Everybody says they want an extraordinary life. But the moment extraordinary starts requiring ordinary sacrifices, people suddenly need a nap, a spiritual reset, and 3 business days to respond. At the same time, we've created a culture where exhaustion is treated like a resume. I slept 2 hours, skipped lunch, answered emails in the shower, and haven't spoken to my family since Tuesday. Congratulations. You're not necessarily successful. You might just be dehydrated. We're living between 2 loud philosophies. The first says, protect your peace, set boundaries, rest, cut off anything that drains you. Don't let anybody disturb your energy. The second says, become obsessed, wake up earlier, stay later, sacrifice comfort, ignore distractions, work until your results become impossible to deny. Both sound powerful, both contain truth, and both can become excuses. Sometimes, protecting your peace is healthy. Other times, it's a beautiful phrase wrapped around avoidance. You say you're protecting your peace, but maybe you're protecting yourself from criticism. Maybe you're avoiding a difficult conversation. Maybe you keep leaving every situation that challenges you, then calling everybody toxic on the way out. Not everything that makes you uncomfortable is harmful. A deadline can disturb your peace. Honest feedback can disturb your peace. Practicing when you'd rather relax can disturb your peace. Hearing that the song, business plan, performance, or first draft isn't good enough yet can definitely disturb your peace. Growth rarely knocks politely and waits for you to light a candle. Sometimes growth kicks the door open and says, get dressed, we have work to do. But obsession has its own lies. We love hearing about the athlete who trained after everybody left, the artist who recorded 100 songs for a 12-song album, or the entrepreneur who risked everything and refused to quit. What we don't hear as often are the people who made the same sacrifices and still didn't win. For every person saying, I slept on the studio floor and now I'm a millionaire, there's somebody else who slept on the studio floor and woke up with back pain and an eviction notice. That's why this conversation can't be reduced to work hard or choose balance. Greatness usually requires sacrifice. It requires time, repetition, embarrassment, rejection, boredom, discipline, and doing things long after the original excitement disappears. But sacrifice isn't supposed to mean sacrificing everything. Missing a party because you're finishing an important project is sacrifice. Ignoring everybody who loves you for 5 years and expecting them to applaud when you finally succeed is abandonment with a vision board. And relationships make this debate even more complicated. An ambitious person may say, I'm doing this for our future. Meanwhile, their partner is thinking, that's beautiful, but I currently live in your present, and you haven't looked up from your laptop since February. Supporting ambition doesn't mean accepting unlimited neglect. You can't keep giving people emotional leftovers and telling them the full meal is coming after you make it. The question is whether the sacrifice is communicated, temporary, and mutually understood, or whether everybody around you has been placed in a waiting room with no estimated appointment time. That brings us to a current story from the artificial intelligence industry. AI researcher Lillian Wang recently stepped away from a leadership position after explaining that the pressure and workload had become physically unsustainable. She didn't abandon artificial intelligence or decide that ambition was evil. She moved into a more clearly defined role and changed the conditions under which she was pursuing her work. That story is almost a perfect summary of today's argument. Walking away from a position isn't always walking away from your purpose. Sometimes you're not quitting the dream. You're quitting the way the dream is demanding to be pursued. The lesson isn't that pressure is always bad. Pressure can sharpen you. It can force you to focus, reveal what you're capable of, and separate an idea you casually like from a purpose you're genuinely committed to. But pressure has to produce something besides damage. There's a difference between being tired because you're growing and being sick because your entire life has become unsustainable. There's a difference between a demanding season and a permanent identity built around exhaustion. Some people have been overwhelmed for so long that they don't know how to introduce themselves without listing responsibilities. How are you? Busy. 2 jobs, 3 projects, a podcast, a clothing line, and I'm emotionally unavailable until the 4th quarter. That isn't a personality. That's an emergency contact form. So, what does healthy intensity look like? Healthy intensity says, this matters deeply, so I'm organizing my life around it. Destructive obsession says, if I'm not producing, I have no value. Healthy intensity makes room for recovery because recovery supports performance. Destructive obsession treats rest like betrayal. Healthy intensity lets you love the work. Destructive obsession makes you fear the person you become when you stop working. And that's where peace enters the conversation. Peace isn't the absence of effort. Peace isn't sitting on the couch while your potential sends unanswered messages. Real peace can be alignment. It can be knowing that the difficult work in front of you belongs to a life you actually chose. You may be tired and still at peace. You may be busy and still centered. You may be uncomfortable and still know you're exactly where you need to be. On the other hand, you can look completely relaxed while knowing you're avoiding everything you said you wanted. Comfort and peace aren't the same thing. Comfort says, nothing is demanding anything from me. Peace says, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And obsession isn't automatically greatness either. That's why self-awareness matters as much as work ethic. Before you sacrifice your peace, ask what you're sacrificing it for. Is this goal actually yours? Does it improve your life, or does it only improve your image? Are you building something meaningful, or are you trying to prove that somebody who rejected you made a mistake? Because revenge can be motivating for a little while. But eventually, you have to stop living your life as a response to people who probably aren't even paying attention anymore. Imagine destroying your sleep schedule, ruining 3 relationships, and developing stress headaches just to prove something to a person who muted you 2 years ago. They're not watching. Go drink some water. Maybe the answer isn't perfect balance. The goal isn't to divide every day into equal pieces like a motivational pie chart. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 2 hours for family, 1 hour for exercise, 30 minutes for meditation, 15 minutes for journaling, 7 minutes to stare dramatically out of a window and remember why you started. Real life doesn't work that neatly. Some seasons will demand more from you. There may be weeks when the project needs additional attention. There may be months when training, studying, recording, writing, or building requires you to temporarily rearrange your schedule. That doesn't automatically mean your life is unhealthy. The goal is intentional imbalance. Know what season you're in. Know what you're sacrificing. Know who is affected. Know when the season is supposed to end. And don't move the finish line every time you get close. Some people say, I'll rest after this project. Then the project ends, and suddenly it's, I'll rest after the launch. Then after the launch, it's the numbers. After the numbers, it's expansion. After expansion, it's domination. After domination, apparently, you're trying to become the final boss of capitalism. At some point, your body may schedule the rest without asking your permission. That's what people forget about burnout. Your body doesn't care how inspirational your caption was. It doesn't care that you wrote "no days off" beneath a black and white picture of yourself staring at a laptop. Your nervous system is going to send that invoice eventually. And when it does, motivational quotes aren't accepted as payment. There's also a difference between discipline and punishment. Discipline says, I made a commitment, so I'm showing up. Punishment says, I'm not allowed to feel good until I accomplish something. Discipline creates structure. Punishment creates shame. Discipline helps you move forward. Punishment convinces you that you're never doing enough. Some people aren't chasing greatness because they love creating. They're chasing greatness because they believe success will finally make them feel worthy. They think the award, money, recognition, body transformation, number of followers, or perfect relationship will finally silence every insecurity. But insecurity is creative. You reach one goal, and it simply changes outfits. You get 10,000 followers, and now it asks why you don't have 50,000. You make your first major check, and now it asks why somebody younger is making more. You release the project, and instead of celebrating, you immediately start checking whether it performed better than somebody else's. That's not ambition anymore. That's emotional debt collecting interest. Real greatness has to include the ability to experience what you worked for. What is the point of building a beautiful life if you train yourself to feel guilty?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cleaning out my closet, it's time to let go. Negative energy, I don't need it no more. Cutting off the ties that were holding me down. Yeah, trust if it all mess, staying this down. Hit the point and vote, but I'm not in the scene. But send me your umbrellas and just get me a laws it up, but I want to take fight. With every flip of time, and I'm ready to fight. Quick pass if the